The surprise attack for the coffee in Commander Sarah Chun's mug had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. Her weathered hands gripped the ceramic handle as she stared through the reinforced viewport of Neptune, mining station Alpha 7, watching ice crystals dance in the pale blue light of the distant sun. At 52, Chen had spent more than half her life in the depths of space, mining the frozen wealth that kept Earth's colonies running. Tonight felt different, though she couldn't quite explain why. "Commander, you should get some rest, Lieutenant." Marcus Rivera called from the communications console, his young face illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. The 26-year-old had joined the station crew just 8 months ago, fresh from Earth's Naval Academy, still eager and optimistic about humanity's place among the stars. Chen turned away from the viewport, her dark eyes scanning the bustling command center. "Too much on my mind, Marcus. The quarterly reports are due tomorrow, and we're behind quota on the helium-3 extraction." She paused, noticing the slight tremor in her voice. Something was wrong, but what? The answer came at exactly 3:42 a.m. station time. When Chief Engineer Alina Volkov burst through the command center doors, her usually composed demeanor shattered. The 45-year-old Russian had served in Earth's military for 15 years before joining the mining operation, and Chen had never seen her look so alarmed. "Commander, we have a problem," Volkov announced, her thick accent more pronounced than usual. "Deep space sensors are picking up multiple contacts, moving fast, really fast." Dr. Kenji Nakamura looked up from his quantum analysis station, his thin fingers dancing across holographic controls. The brilliant physicist had been monitoring cosmic radiation levels when the readings began spiking. "Commander, these aren't natural objects. The energy signatures are artificial, and they're accelerating beyond anything we've seen before." Chen moved to the central tactical display, her years of experience kicking in. The hologram showed 12 distinct contacts racing toward the station at incredible speed, their trajectories perfectly calculated for maximum impact. "Time to intercept. 14 minutes, Rivera reported, his voice tight with tension. "Commander, I'm trying to hail them on all frequencies, but there's no response." The objects were sleek, dart-shaped vessels roughly 30 meters long, their hulls gleaming with an alien metal that seemed to absorb light. As they approached their true nature became terrifyingly clear. These were missiles, and they were aimed directly at Neptune Mining Station, Alpha 7, all hands. "This is Commander Chen." Her voice echoed through the station's corridors via the intercom system. "We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. All personnel report to emergency stations immediately." This is not a drill. The next few minutes unfolded like a nightmare. Station Alpha 7 had minimal defensive capabilities, designed for mining operations rather than combat. The automated defense turrets swiveled toward the incoming threats, their plasma cannons charging with desperate intensity. But 12 missiles against 6 defense turrets was hardly a fair fight. Volkov's fingers flew across her engineering console, rerouting power to the shields and weapons systems. "I'm giving you everything I can, Commander, but these systems weren't designed for military engagement." Dr. Nakamura's analysis revealed the horrifying truth about their attackers. "These are Zephyrian design signatures," he announced, his voice barely above a whisper. "The energy patterns match their military specifications exactly." The Zephyrian Empire had maintained an uneasy peace with humanity for the past decade, but tensions had been rising over mining rights in the outer systems. They were known for their advanced technology and ruthless efficiency, traits that made them both valuable trading partners and dangerous enemies. At 3:56 a.m., the first missile struck the station's outer ring, where the primary mining equipment was housed. The explosion sent shockwaves through the entire structure, causing lights to flicker and emergency alarms to wail. The second and third missiles followed in quick succession, targeting the habitat modules where most of the station's 200 personnel lived and worked. Hull breach in Section 7. Rivera shouted over the chaos, his hands working frantically to coordinate damage control teams. We've got 47 miners trapped in the lower levels. Commander Chen gritted her teeth as another explosion rocked the station. The Zephyrians had chosen their timing perfectly, striking during the night shift when most of the crew was asleep or working in the deepest parts of the mining complex. It was a calculated attack designed for maximum casualties. Chief Volkov managed to get the emergency blast doors sealed, preventing complete decompression, but the damage was severe. 3 of the 12 missiles had found their marks, while the remaining 9 had been destroyed by the defense turrets or had missed their targets in the chaos of the engagement. Casualty report, Chen demanded, her voice steady despite the circumstances. 17. Confirmed dead, 32 injured, and 47 missing in the collapsed sections. Dr. Nakamura reported, his medical scanners working overtime to locate survivors. The main mining shaft is completely blocked. As rescue teams mobilized to search for survivors, Chen focused on the bigger picture. This wasn't a random attack or an accident. The Zephyrians had deliberately targeted a civilian mining station. An act of war by any measure. But why now? What had changed in the delicate balance of interstellar politics? The answer came when Lieutenant Rivera intercepted a Zephyrian military transmission that hadn't been properly encrypted. "Commander, you need to hear this," he said, patching the audio through the command center speakers. The alien voices spoke. In their native language, a series of clicks and whistles that the station's translation software converted to English. Phase 1 complete. Human mining operation neutralized. Proceed with territorial claim as planned. Chen felt her blood run cold. This wasn't just an attack. It was the opening move in a larger Zephyrian expansion into human-controlled space. They had tested humanity's response time and defensive capabilities, and now they knew exactly how vulnerable the outer colonies were. "Get me a direct channel to Earth Defense Command," Chen ordered. "Priority Alpha clearance." Within minutes, she was speaking directly with Admiral Rebecca Stone, the hard-nosed military leader responsible for humanity's outer system defenses. Stone's scarred face appeared on the main view screen, her steel-grey eyes taking in the damage. Reports with professional detachment. "Commander Chen, I've reviewed your situation report," Admiral Stone said, her voice carrying the weight of command. 47 of your people are trapped, 17 dead, and the Zephyrians are claiming salvage rights to your entire sector. "They're testing us," Chen replied, her anger barely contained. "This was a probe to see how we'd respond. If we don't hit back hard, every alien species in the galaxy will think humanity is weak." Admiral Stone nodded grimly. "Agreed. I'm mobilizing. Task Force Hammer for immediate deployment. The Zephyrians want to see how humans respond to aggression. They're about to find out." As the hours passed, rescue teams managed to extract 31 of the trapped miners. Those 16 were lost in the collapsed sections. The station limped along on emergency power, while repair crews worked around the clock to restore critical systems. But Commander Chen knew that the real battle was just beginning. Earth's response would define humanity's reputation among the stars for generations to come. The Zephyrians had made their move, calculating that humans were too far from Earth to mount an effective counterattack. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. In the depths of space, the message had been sent. Humanity would not be bullied, and those who threatened human lives would face consequences beyond their imagination. The devastating retaliation 18 hours after the attack on Neptune mining station Alpha 7, the Earth Defense Council convened in emergency session. The sleek conference room deep beneath Geneva buzzed with tension as military leaders, politicians, and scientific advisors gathered around the holographic display showing the devastation at the mining station. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood at the head of the table, her uniform bearing the insignia of 30 years of military service. At 58, she had seen humanity's expansion into the stars and the delicate diplomacy required to maintain peace with alien species. But today, diplomacy had failed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Stone began, her voice cutting through the murmur of conversation, "the Zephyrian Empire has committed an act of war against a civilian target. 17 humans are dead, 16 more presumed dead in the collapsed mining shafts. This aggression cannot go unanswered." Defense Minister Williams, a portly man in his 60s, raised a cautious hand. "Admiral, perhaps we should consider diplomatic channels first. The Zephyrians might claim this was a rogue action, not sanctioned by their High Council." Stone's eyes flashed with controlled anger. "Minister, they used military-grade stealth missiles launched from a coordinated strike formation. This wasn't some rogue captain having a bad day. This was a calculated test of our resolve." Dr. Sarah Martinez, the Council's chief xenobiologist, leaned forward. "The Zephyrians have been expanding aggressively for the past 5 years. They've absorbed 3 smaller species and claimed dozens of systems. They see humanity as the next obstacle to their dominance." "Then we remove that obstacle," Stone declared. "Operation Thunderstrike is approved. We launch in 6 hours." The plan was audacious in its scope and devastating in its intent. Task Force Hammer consisted of 8 Ghost Hawk stealth bombers, 4 Viper-class fighters, and 2 Titan-class destroyers. Their target, 3 major Zephyrian military installations in the Kepler 442 system, the heart of the Zephyrian empires. Military might. Captain Jake Morrison, callsign Reaper, led the bomber squadron. The 34-year-old pilot had flown more deep space missions than anyone in the fleet, his reputation for precision and lethality preceding him wherever he went. His weathered face bore the scars of combat, and his dark eyes held the cold focus of a predator. "Listen up, people," Morrison addressed his squadron via secure comm channel as they prepared for departure. "The Zephyrians think they can murder civilians and get away with it. We're going to teach them the difference between humans and prey." The journey to Zephyrian space required a 72-hour warp jump through the darkest reaches of interstellar space. During the transit, intelligence reports flooded in from deep space reconnaissance drones that had been monitoring Zephyrian activities for years. Commander Lisa Park, the task force intelligence officer, briefed the strike teams on their targets. Primary target is the Nexus Prime military complex on Zephyr Beta. This facility houses their fleet command structure and manufactures their most advanced weapon systems. Secondary target is the orbital defense platform protecting their capital world. Tertiary target is their main military academy. The Zephyrians had built their empire on the belief that superior technology and ruthless efficiency made them unstoppable. Their military doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower and quick victories, tactics that had served them well against less advanced species. They had studied human military capabilities and concluded that Earth's forces were competent but not exceptional. They were about to learn the fatal flaw in that assessment. When Task Force Hammer dropped out of warp at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, they found the Zephyrian defenses exactly as intelligence had predicted. Massive orbital platforms bristling with weapons, patrol fleets moving in predictable patterns, and sensor networks designed to detect conventional attacks. But the Ghost Hawk bombers were anything but conventional. Using quantum stealth technology that bent light around their hulls, they were virtually invisible to Zephyrian sensors. The bombers slipped through the outer defenses like ghosts, their crews maintaining absolute communication silence. Ghost leader to all units, Morrison whispered into his comm system. Targets acquired. Weapons hot. Remember, we're not just sending a message. We're writing humanity's reputation in fire across their sky. The quantum bombs carried by each Ghost Hawk were humanity's most closely guarded secrets. Unlike conventional explosives that released energy through chemical or nuclear reactions, quantum bombs manipulated the fundamental forces that held matter together. The results were both beautiful and terrifying. At exactly 0347 hours, Zephyrian time, 8 quantum, bombs detonated simultaneously across 3 military installations. The explosions didn't create the massive fireballs typical of nuclear weapons. Instead, they created expanding spheres of pure energy that dissolved molecular bonds and reduced matter to its component atoms. The Nexus Prime military complex simply ceased to exist. One moment it was a sprawling facility housing 50,000 Zephyrian military personnel. The next, it was a perfectly spherical crater 2 kilometers wide. The orbital defense platform suffered the same fate, its massive bulk vaporized. In an instant, the military academy, located on a moon orbiting the capital world, vanished without a trace. But the human strike force wasn't finished. The Viper fighters screamed through Zephyrian space, their plasma cannons destroying communication satellites and sensor arrays with surgical precision. The 2 Titan destroyers emerged from warp at the system's edge, their massive railguns launching projectiles at near-light speed toward Zephyrian naval shipyards. In less than 20 minutes, humanity had crippled the military might of an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds. The Zephyrian High Council, watching their most secure installations vanish from their sensor screens, realized they had made a catastrophic miscalculation. The alien leaders, beings that resembled upright lizards with metallic scales, had built their empire on the principle that strength was the only language the galaxy understood. They respected power and despised weakness, traits that had served them well in their expansion. But they had never encountered an enemy that could strike so precisely and devastate so completely. High Commander Vexter, the supreme leader of the Zephyrian military, stood in his command center watching the destruction unfold. His elongated skull bore the scars of countless battles, and his golden eyes had seen the fall of entire civilizations. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. How many casualties? He asked his aide, a younger Zephyrian whose scales had not yet hardened with age. Preliminary estimates suggest 200,000 military personnel killed or missing came. The trembling reply: our 3 primary military installations are completely destroyed. Fleet Command estimates it will take 15 years to rebuild our capabilities to pre-attack levels. Vextar's clawed hands gripped the railing of his command platform. The humans had not simply retaliated. They had demonstrated a level of military sophistication that rendered Zephyrian expansion plans obsolete. This was not the response of a weak species defending itself. This was the calculated action of a civilization that understood the language of power better than the Zephyrians themselves. Send a message to the Human Defense Council, Vexstar ordered, his pride warring with the cold logic of survival. The Zephyrian Empire withdraws its territorial claims in human space. We acknowledge that the attack on their mining station was ... an error in judgment. As news of the devastating human counterattack spread throughout the galaxy, other alien species took notice. The peaceful traders, the aggressive expansionists, the ancient civilizations that had watched younger races rise and fall, all of them revised their assessments of humanity's place in the galactic community. Captain Morrison led his squadron home through hyperspace, their mission complete and their message delivered. In the darkness between stars, he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Zephyrians had tested human resolve and found it stronger than they had imagined. Commander Sarah Chen, still coordinating rescue efforts at Neptune Mining Station Alpha 7, received word of the successful strike via encrypted transmission. As she looked out at the stars that had once seemed cold and hostile, she realized that humanity had crossed a threshold. They were no longer the new species struggling to find their place among the stars. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would remember the price of underestimating human determination. The 17 miners who had died in the Zephyrian attack had not died in vain. Their sacrifice had forged humanity's reputation in the fires of retaliation, ensuring that future generations would explore the stars under the protection of that hard-won respect. The message was clear to every species watching. Humanity had arrived, and they would not be intimidated, bullied, or conquered. They would defend their own with a ferocity that shocked even the most warlike civilizations, and their response to aggression would be swift, decisive, and absolutely devastating. In the depths of space, among the ancient stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, a new truth had been written. Do not test humanity's resolve. The price is higher than any species can afford to pay. The Discovery Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Terra Nova, watching the stars drift past through the main viewport. The ship had been traveling through uncharted space for 3 weeks, searching for new worlds and resources for the growing human colonies. Earth's population had spread to 12 systems, but they were still considered newcomers by the Galactic Federation. Captain, we're detecting something unusual on long-range sensors, reported Lieutenant David Rodriguez from his station. The young officer's voice carried excitement mixed with confusion. It's massive, sir. Much larger than any ship in our database. Marcus turned from the viewport and walked to the center of the bridge. Show me what you found, Lieutenant. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a 3-dimensional representation of space. In the center was a dark shape, barely visible against the cosmic background. The object was enormous, dwarfing their own ship by at least 10 times. Dr. Sarah Kim looked up from her science station. She was a brilliant archaeologist who had joined the mission to study alien artifacts. Captain, the object appears to be artificial. The density readings suggest it's made of some kind of advanced metal alloy. Engineer Emma Foster frowned at her readings. Sir, I'm not detecting any power signatures from the vessel. It appears to be completely dead. But the construction materials are unlike anything I've seen before. Marcus studied the image on the screen. Something about the ship's design felt familiar, though he couldn't place why. The hull was sleek and angular, with geometric patterns that seemed almost elegant in their complexity. Lieutenant Rodriguez, plot a course to intercept. We're going to take a closer look. The Terra Nova changed course, moving toward the mysterious vessel. As they approached, the true size of the ship became apparent. It stretched 4 kilometers. In every direction, its hull scarred and pitted from what looked like ancient battle damage. "My God," whispered Dr. Kim. "Captain, this ship is old. Very old. The metal shows signs of being in space for thousands of years." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "Any signs of life?" Foster shook her head. "None, sir, but the ship's structure is intact. Whatever built this thing, they knew how to make it last." The captain made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party. I want to know what we're dealing with." 2 hours later, Marcus led a small team through the Terra Nova's docking port and into the ancient vessel. Their suit lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that stretched into the shadows. The walls were covered with symbols and writing that none of them could read. "The architecture is incredible," Dr. Kim said, running her gloved hand along the wall. "These symbols, they're not like any alien language I've studied, but there's something familiar about them." Foster was examining the ship's systems with her engineering tools. "Captain, the technology here is centuries ahead of anything we have. The power conduits, the materials, everything is incredibly advanced." They made their way deeper into the ship, following corridors that seemed to lead toward the center. The vessel was like a maze, with passages branching off in every direction. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the main bridge. The bridge was enormous, with dozens of stations arranged in a complex pattern. At the center was a command chair that faced a massive display screen. Everything was dark and silent, covered in the dust of millennia. Dr. Kim approached one of the control panels and carefully tried to activate it. Nothing happened at first. Then, suddenly, the entire bridge came to life. Lights flickered on throughout the chamber, and the display screens began showing information in symbols that slowly shifted and changed. "Welcome," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The team spun around, searching for the source. "I am Arya, the advanced reasoning and intelligence archive of this vessel. I have been waiting for humans to return for 4,847 years." Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. "Arya, did you say humans?" "Yes, Captain Chen. This is the EHS Prometheus, a human warship from the Second Galactic Empire. I have been maintaining this vessel since the Great Exodus, hoping that someday our people would find their way home." The team exchanged shocked glances. Dr. Kim stepped forward. "Arya, humans have only been in space for about a century. We've never had an empire." "That is what the Federation would have you believe," Arya replied. The main screen activated, showing images of vast human cities spanning entire star systems. But the truth is far different. Humanity once ruled over 500 worlds across this galaxy. You were the most advanced species that had ever existed. The images showed human ships that made the Terra Nova look like a toy. They moved through space, with technologies that seemed to bend reality itself. Cities floated in the clouds of gas giants, while others were built in the hearts of stars. "What happened to them?" Marcus asked, though he was afraid of the answer. The other species grew, jealous of human advancement. They discovered that humans were evolving at a rate that would eventually make them the dominant force in the galaxy. So they formed a secret alliance, the Galactic Federation, to stop humanity before it reached its full potential. More images appeared on the screen. They showed human worlds burning, families fleeing in ships, and great battles fought across the stars. The scenes of destruction were heartbreaking. "They called it the Purification War," Arya continued. The Federation claimed that humans were a threat to galactic peace. They destroyed our colonies, hunted our ships, and tried to wipe us from existence. Foster was examining the ship's systems, her face pale with amazement. "Captain, the weapons on this ship could destroy entire fleets. The defensive systems are beyond anything I can understand. How did humans build something like this?" "Because your ancestors were brilliant," Arya said. "They had unlocked the secrets of space and time itself. They could create matter from energy, travel instantly across the galaxy, and even manipulate the fundamental forces of physics." Lieutenant Rodriguez had been monitoring their ship's communications. "Captain, I'm picking up some unusual signals. It looks like our presence here has activated some kind of beacon." Arya's voice became urgent. "The Federation maintains listening posts throughout the galaxy. They monitor for any signs of human technology. If they have detected this ship's activation, they will send forces to investigate." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Arya, what happened to the other humans? The ones who built this ship? Most died in the final battle. But some escaped too. The far edges of the galaxy. They hid their technology and their knowledge, hoping that someday their descendants would reclaim their heritage. The humans of Earth are those descendants." Dr. Kim was recording everything on her equipment. "Arya, why doesn't Earth remember any of this history?" "Because the Federation made sure it was forgotten. They found the surviving human colonies and convinced them that they were a young, primitive species. They provided just enough technology to keep humans satisfied, but never enough to threaten their rule." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Everything humanity believed about their place in the galaxy was a lie. They weren't newcomers to space. They were the rightful inheritors of a vast empire. "The Federation has been watching Earth for centuries," Arya continued. "They allowed humans to develop space travel, but only under their careful control. They've been waiting for signs that humanity might remember its true nature." Rodriguez's voice was tense. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching our position. They're moving fast, and they don't appear to be friendly." Arya immediately began bringing the ship's systems online. The bridge lit up with activity as computers that had been dormant for millennia began processing information. "The Federation has found us. They're sending a strike force to destroy this ship and everyone who has seen it." Foster stared at the readings on her scanner. "Captain, there are 12 ships approaching. They're heavily armed and they're not responding to our communications." "Because they're not here to talk," Arya said. "They're here to eliminate any evidence that advanced human technology exists. This ship represents everything the Federation fears about humanity." Marcus looked around at his crew. They were explorers, not soldiers. Their ship was designed for research, not combat. Against a Federation strike force, they wouldn't stand a chance. "Arya, can this ship defend itself?" "Captain, the EHS Prometheus was designed to fight entire fleets. Its weapons can tear holes in space itself. Its shields exist in multiple dimensions. But using this ship's full power would prove to the galaxy that humans possess technology beyond anything the Federation has ever seen." The moral dilemma was clear. If they used the ship to defend themselves, they would reveal humanity's true heritage. But that would also start a war that could destroy Earth and all human colonies. "How long until the Federation ships arrive?" Marcus asked. 6 hours, Captain. But once they're here, they won't leave any survivors. The Federation has spent thousands of years keeping humanity weak and divided. They can't allow that to change. Marcus stood in the center of the ancient bridge, surrounded by technology that represented humanity's forgotten greatness. Outside, enemy ships were racing toward them with orders to destroy everything. The choice he made in the next few hours would determine the fate of the entire human race. Arya, if we activate this ship's defenses, what happens to Earth? That depends on what humanity chooses to do with the truth, Captain. Your species can remain as Federation subjects, content with the lies they've been told. Or they can reclaim their birthright and take their place as the most powerful species in the galaxy. The weight of 4,847 years of waiting seemed to press. Down on the bridge, somewhere in the darkness of space, Federation warships continued their approach, carrying weapons designed to erase humanity's greatest secret. Marcus Chen, captain of a simple exploration vessel, stood at the crossroads of galactic history. Arya, show me what this ship can do. Asterisk, the awakening Admiral Zethkar, stood on the bridge of the Federation dreadnought Dominion. His forearms crossed as he studied the tactical display. The blue-skinned Zelkrani had served the Federation for over 2 centuries, hunting down and destroying any technology that threatened their carefully maintained order. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the target location, reported his tactical officer. The readings are unlike anything in our databases. Zethkar's yellow eyes narrowed. It's human technology. I can feel it. After all these years, they finally found one of the ancient ships. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Everyone in the Federation knew the stories of the ancient human empire, the species that had nearly conquered the galaxy before, being stopped by the Great Alliance. Most citizens believed the humans had been primitive savages who got lucky with stolen technology. Only the highest levels of Federation command knew the truth. Sir, should we contact the Collective Council? Asked the communications officer. No, Zethkar said firmly. We handle this ourselves. The fewer who know about this discovery, the better. How many ships are in our strike force? 12 vessels, sir. 3 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 3 support ships. More than enough to handle a single human exploration vessel. Zethkar wasn't so sure. He had studied the old records, the classified files that detailed humanity's true capabilities. If the humans had awakened an ancient warship, his fleet might not be enough. Double our approach speed. We need to destroy that ship before it can fully activate. Meanwhile, aboard the EHS Prometheus, Captain Marcus Chen watched in amazement as Arya brought the ancient vessel back to life. The ship's systems activated in sequence, each one representing technology that was thousands of years ahead of anything humanity currently possessed. Captain, the quantum core is online, Arya reported. All defensive systems are operational. The ship is ready for combat. Dr. Kim was studying the tactical displays. Marcus, the approaching Federation ships are armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Their combined firepower could destroy a small moon. And how do we compare? Marcus asked. Arya's holographic form appeared on the bridge. She looked like a human woman in her 30s, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. Captain, the Prometheus carries weapons that can manipulate the fundamental forces of physics. We have reality disruptors that can erase matter from existence. We have time dilators that can slow enemy ships to a crawl. And we have dimensional shields that exist in parallel universes. Engineer Foster was examining the ship's weapon systems. Captain, I'm looking at the technical specifications. These aren't just weapons, they're tools that can reshape space itself. Lieutenant Rodriguez monitored the approaching fleet. "Sir, they're hailing us. Should I respond?" "Put them through," Marcus said. The main screen filled with the image of Admiral Zethkar. His alien features were twisted with hatred and fear. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. You are in possession of forbidden technology that threatens galactic security." Marcus stepped forward. "Admiral, we're conducting a legal salvage operation in neutral space. We haven't broken any Federation laws. There are no laws that protect you here, human. That ship you've boarded is a weapon of mass destruction. It cannot be allowed to exist." "Why?" Marcus asked. "Because it proves that humans are more than..." "You've told us." "Because it shows that we once ruled the galaxy." Zethkar's expression became dangerous. "Because it proves that humans are a threat that should have been eliminated long ago. We made the mistake of showing mercy to your species. We won't make that mistake again." The transmission ended. Marcus turned to his crew. "Well, I think we have our answer about the Federation's true intentions." Arya's voice filled the bridge. "Captain, the Federation fleet will arrive in 2 hours. You must decide now. Will you use this ship to defend yourself, or will you try to escape?" "Can we outrun them?" Marcus asked. "The Prometheus has engines that can travel faster than light itself. We could escape to anywhere in the galaxy. But the Federation will hunt you forever. They'll track down every human colony and destroy them to prevent the truth from spreading." Foster looked up from her readings. "Captain, they're not just coming to destroy us. They're coming to destroy any evidence that this ship exists." Marcus felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. If they ran, the Federation would continue its secret control over humanity. If they fought, they would reveal the truth, but potentially start a war that could destroy Earth. "Arya, what would the original crew of this ship have done?" "They would have fought, Captain. They understood that some things are worth dying for. Freedom is one of them." The next 2 hours passed quickly. Arya used the time to brief Marcus and his crew on the ship's capabilities. The Prometheus wasn't just a warship, it was a mobile fortress that could take on entire fleets. "The ship's primary weapon is the reality cannon," Arya explained. "It fires concentrated bursts of quantum energy that can unmake matter at the subatomic level. One shot can destroy a ship by erasing it from existence." Foster was amazed by the engineering. The power requirements alone should be impossible. "Humans learned to harness the energy of collapsed stars," Arya said. "The ship's reactor contains a miniature black hole that provides unlimited power. When the Federation fleet finally arrived, they found the Prometheus waiting for them. The ancient human warship hung in space like a sleeping giant, its hull gleaming with energy patterns that seemed to pulse with life. Admiral Zethkar studied the vessel through his ship's sensors. "It's magnificent," he whispered, "and absolutely terrifying. No wonder the Collective Council ordered these ships destroyed." He opened a channel to all ships in his fleet. "All vessels, target the human ship. Fire everything you have. Do not let it escape." The Federation ships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes streaked through space, carrying enough destructive power to shatter a planet. The weapons struck the Prometheus and simply disappeared, absorbed by shields that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. "Impossible," Zethkar breathed. "Our weapons aren't even touching it." Aboard the Prometheus, Marcus watched the enemy attack with calm determination. "Arya, I want you to disable their weapons, not destroy them. Show them what we can do, but don't start a massacre." "Understood, Captain." activating precision targeting systems. The Prometheus responded to the attack with surgical precision. Beams of energy lanced out from the ship, each one carefully calibrated to disable specific systems on the Federation vessels. Within minutes, the entire enemy fleet was helpless, their weapons offline and their engines dead. Admiral Zethkar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. They neutralized our entire fleet without destroying a single ship. The precision required for that kind of attack is beyond anything we've ever seen. Marcus opened a communication channel to the Federation fleet. Admiral Zethkar, your ships are disabled but intact. Your crews are safe. We're not interested in starting a war, but we won't be intimidated either. You've made a terrible mistake, human. The Collective Council will not tolerate this display of power. They'll send everything they have to destroy you. Then they'll learn the same lesson you just did, Marcus replied. Humanity is not the weak species you've pretended we are. We're the inheritors of the greatest empire this galaxy has ever known. Arya's voice filled both the Prometheus and the Federation ships. People of the galaxy, you have lived with a lie for thousands of years. You have been told that humans are primitive, that they require Federation guidance and protection. But the truth is that humans once ruled over 500 worlds. They were the most advanced species that ever existed. Throughout the galaxy, Arya's message was picked up by communication networks. On thousands of worlds, people heard the truth about humanity's hidden history. The Federation destroyed the human empire because they feared human potential. They scattered the survivors and convinced them they were nothing more than a young species taking its first steps into space. But that age of deception is over. Marcus felt the weight of history shifting around him. Arya, what happens now? Now, Captain, humanity has a choice. They can continue to live as subjects of the Federation, or they can reclaim their rightful place as the most powerful species in the galaxy. The Prometheus is just one ship. There are dozens of others hidden throughout space, waiting to be found. Through the communication network, Marcus could hear the reactions from across the galaxy. Some species were terrified by the revelation. Others were excited by the possibility of challenging Federation rule. And on Earth, humanity was learning the truth about their forgotten greatness. Admiral Zethkar's voice crackled through the communication system. You have no idea what you've done, human. You've condemned your species to extinction. The Collective Council will never allow humanity to reclaim its power. Then the Collective Council will learn that some things never change, Marcus replied. Humanity doesn't surrender. We don't back down. And we never forget our friends or our enemies. The Prometheus began to move, its engines creating ripples in space itself. Other ships throughout the galaxy, ancient human vessels that had been waiting for this moment, began to activate. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's exile was over. As the ship prepared to return to Earth, Marcus stood on the bridge of the most powerful warship ever built. The Federation had kept humanity weak and divided for thousands of years. They had hidden the truth about human greatness and convinced an entire species to accept subjugation. But that age was ending. The galaxy was about to rediscover why humanity had once been feared and respected by every species among the stars. The most overpowered human warship was no longer forbidden. It was coming home. Arya, set course for Earth. It's time to wake up humanity. The stars themselves seemed to bend as the Prometheus moved through space, carrying with it the promise of a new age. Behind them, the disabled Federation fleet drifted helplessly, while their commanders tried to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity was returning to its rightful place among the stars, and this time no one would be able to stop them.